Our primary concern is not the religious identity of the new governments, but how they view certain core principles, I think. Our concern is that the new governments be democratic. Our concern is that the new governments be inclusive of women and minorities. Our concern is that the new governments be just. Our concern is that the new governments respond to the aspirations and demands of the people that they represent. If those things are captured, if those principles are covered, then we're willing to work with that new government. Now, there are aspects of American society in fact, it could be said other branches of U.S. government who have expressed some concern in a sort of Islamic resurgence among the governments. The fact of the matter is the people in these countries are Muslim. And their religion is going to find an expression in their practice of government, just as, frankly, religion finds an expression in our government based on people's individual beliefs. So we are optimistic that, for example, in Nahda, in Tunisia, will follow their core principles, which are aligned with many of our core principles. We're not paranoid that once the party is elected, they'll do something or say something other than what they promised to their people. And as long as they are accountable and responsible to the people who've elected them, we'll work with them.
Can I just maybe add a word or two? And that is that Mr. Maxwell has made completely clear what we support about the changes that we've seen during these recent several months. But I would like to just make clear what we oppose under any circumstances by any political philosophy, and that's the use of violence as a political tool to get power, to stay in power, or to export that philosophy to any other country. We oppose the use of violence as a political instrument. It doesn't matter who is using it, but we oppose that and will continue to do so.
Bonjour, c'est Sophie Hachmi de la chaîne 3. Je voudrais poser deux questions. La première, c'est qu'il a déclaré tout à l'heure que nous n'avons pas de comportement paranoïaque à l'égard de l'instauration des États théocratiques au niveau de la région, mais est-ce que vous attendiez à la création justement d'États théocratiques au niveau de cette région, que ce soit de la Tunisie et la Libye? Et par rapport à cette question, y aurait-il un pacte entre les États-Unis et les islamistes dans ces régions pour leur émergence, d'autant plus que vous dites que nous n'avons pas de comportement paranoïaque, alors qu'en 2001, vous avez diabolisé, après les attentats des États-Unis, vous avez diabolisé l'islam et l'islamisme. Autre question.
I haven't demonized Islam or Islam. There's no compact, there's no agreement with Islamists.
Alors, il n'y a pas de pacte avec les islamistes, il n'y a pas d'accord.
And in fact, we don't see any of these countries as our clients. We see them as our partners. They are sovereign countries, and their people have the sovereign right to elect leaders of their choosing. Now, none of us have a crystal ball, and none of us actually have the gift of prophecy, although we may claim we do. So all that said, we'll watch events as they occur, and we'll respond to things as they happen. But again, and to accentuate what Ambassador Ensher mentioned, there are things that we are in support of, and there are things that we oppose. And I mean, he spoke the truth. We are opposed to the use of violence, particularly against nonviolent, peaceful protesters. We're against the torture and abuse of detainees, prisoners. And we are opposed to how shall I say this? The failure of constituted authority to not respond to the aspirations of the people who put them in power.
Going back to Libya,
Yes,
I would like to know what is your comments about the way Gaddafi was assassinated.
Je vous poserai une deuxième question, c'est par rapport à la Libye.
Would not have
Mais je
been
voudrais revenir, je
wiser
voudrais avoir votre
to
commentaire
detain
sur la
him
façon dont
and
a
to make
été
him responsible and
assassiné,
accountable for
liquidé
all the crime
Al-Qaddafi.
that he has
N'aurait-il pas été
done in
plus
Libya? And
judicieux pour
there have been
de l'arrêter
collateral
vivant pour qu'il réponde des
excesses.
crimes qu'il aurait
We
perpétrés en Libye?
heard that
Et ne craignez-vous
pro-Gaddafi people
pas
have
qu'à
been
l'avenir,
killed
il y ait
or
d'autres
liquidated?
débordements,
And
puisque nous
you
avons
were just
constaté que
before
ceux qui
talking
sont
about
considérés comme
protecting
étant
minorities, about
pro-Kadhafi sont
human rights
liquidés,
and
alors
the
que vous
right of
parlez
the
de la
detainees
protection
and
des
the
minorités, vous parlez
prisoners.
de protéger les peuples.
I would like
et
also
vous
to add
vous
another
parlez
question,
aussi
says the
de la
lady.
préservation
Today
des
there are
droits des
a lot
détenus.
of,
Quel est votre
in the
commentaire sur cette question?
French,
Et puis,
especially in the French
j'enchaîne,
media,
elle est
it
immédiate.
seems that
On
there
parle
is an agreement
aujourd'hui dans
or
certains
a pact,
médias, notamment les
that
Français,
an
d'un
order
pacte ou d'un
was
ordre qui aurait
given
été donné à
both by
Sarkozy et
Sarkozy
Obama pour
and
justement
Obama to
exécuter
kill
le
and
Kadhafi. Quel est
assassinate
votre
Gaddafi.
commentaire?
No more questions for the lady at the radio station. She's had 3.
Vous n'avez plus droit à d'autres questions.
All right. On the serious side, we were not happy with Gaddafi's end. We were not pleased with the way he was treated after he was detained. It didn't make us happy. And frankly, I agree with you since you asked me, since you requested my opinion. I agree with you that it would have been wiser to capture him, take him before a trial by a jury and a judge, and find out everything that went on. And we lost the golden opportunity by not going through that process. That's the first part.
Yeah.
Adel Gnenfa du quotidien électronique, tout sur l'Algérie. Moi j'aimerais bien revenir. Adel Gnenfa du quotidien électronique, tout sur l'Algérie. TSA. Ouais.
TSA, tout sur l'Algérie. I would like to know what do you think about the political reform that have been
Donc moi j'aimerais
launched
bien
or they're
revenir
talking about
sur les
them
réformes
in
politiques
Algeria. Those
qu'a lancées
reforms have
l'Algérie
been highly
depuis quelques mois.
criticized in Algeria by the
Elles sont
opposition
critiquées
and also by
et
the
par
civil
l'opposition et
society.
par la société
And
civile
they are
puisqu'ils voient, ils
considered
sont
or
perçus
regarded
par,
as just
par
mere
la société
reform to
civile et
gain
par
time.
l'opposition comme étant un
And
moyen
I would
de
like to
gagner du
know
temps.
your
J'aimerais bien
opinion,
savoir
and I would
l'avis
like
des
also
États-Unis,
to
surtout
tell you
que
that the
même les
US has been
États-Unis sont critiqués
criticized for
puisqu'ils
the
sont
fact
considérés
that
comme
it's
des
been
alliés
regarded as an ally of Algeria.
du gouvernement algérien.
Where do I start on that one? Okay. First of all, let me say that I've heard just anecdotally about your website and about the fact that you have a newspaper that's only on the internet, and I think that's a pretty cool idea. Now I've forgotten the second part of the question.
I can tell. It's about the reform and the
Yes, yes, yes,
criticism,
yes, yes, yes,
the
yes,
criticisms from
yes,
both the
yes.
civil society opposition and the fact that
Yeah. We're in a unique position in my office because we watched the Arab Spring manifestations in Tunisia. Later in Egypt, we saw the manifestations in Libya, and if you look at it sort of horizontally across the Maghreb, it's easy to see that the government of Algeria and the government of Morocco are making the right sounds about political reform to stay a few steps ahead of similar Arab Spring manifestations.
De manifestations.
Now, we accept what we hear from the government of Algeria in terms of the promise of reform at the value in which it's given to us. We accept them at the value of their word, and we wait to see if what happens agrees with what's promised. And this is both in the case of Algeria and in the case of Morocco. Now, the final part of the question, I think, is that you mentioned that the United States is allied with the government of Algeria. And the fact of the matter is we, at a state-to-state level, we do consider Algeria our ally. And by improving relationships at the state-to-state level, we also hope to improve relationships at the people-to-people level. So just as the U.S., just as we consider ourselves allies with Algeria, we hope that the people of the United States will be allies with the people of Algeria, and that the two can exist in the same space.
Bonjour. Tarek Hafid du Soir d'Algérie. Tarek Hafid du Soir
The
d'Algérie.
gentleman is a journalist from
Vous avez
the daily
évoqué tout à l'heure
newspaper
la
Soir
question de la
d'Algérie.
stabilité dans la région du
You
Maghreb.
mentioned earlier,
Récemment,
sir,
la presse
the
marocaine a
stability
fait
of the
état
region.
d'une vente
Don't you think,
par
and
les États-Unis
this is what we have been reading in the Moroccan press, that the United States is selling high technology or sophisticated technology equipment to Morocco. Do you think this will enhance the stability in the region? And you also mentioned that there is a lot of visit and exchange between Algeria and the United States. Don't you think that it will be possible to increase the level of the relationship and think that there is a possibility of a visit of President Obama in Algeria or President Bouteflika in the United States to raise the level of exchange of visits?
Well, I think the short answer to that is yes. We make these commercial and financial decisions, but we make them under the umbrella, if you will, of policy objectives. And it wouldn't be in our interests to provide high-tech equipment to Morocco if we thought that it would have a negative influence on regional stability.
Pardon? Les équipements.
Military, I heard it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that as we proceed, as time passes, and I hear more French, my French is coming back. And I studied French 30 years ago, but it's still there somewhere. And normally it takes 4 or 5 glasses of wine to get to this point. Okay, but I understand the import of it, the core point of your question, and there's no difference. There's no difference. It's not like we're providing. It's not like we're providing military equipment to Morocco to have a regional war. We are not. Quite unrelated to this question, however, is that we are seeking ways to provide to support sale of equipment to Algeria as well. And it's not that we are trying to set off any type of arms race.